Well, I can assure you that the stories you hear about this man, if nothing else, has been watered down.
In Hollywood, there's always that one guy who claims Sylvester Stallone isn't actually the worst actor to ever exist. Some folks will even tell you that the critics were wrong about him. And then, there are the real tinfoil hat types. The ones who don't believe in the Belgian guy. Yes, that one. But things really start going off the rails when we talk about looks. There's always some rebel out there who boldly declare that Brad Pitt is ugly. Some even dig up dirt on Meryl Streep. Yeah, Meryl. But then, there are the Untouchables. The ones you can only speak of in a whisper, with the reverence of a monk entering a shrine. One of those blessed names? Keanu Reeves. Now let's be clear, Keanu is not some multi-talented Renaissance man like Stallone, who, by the way, writes, directs, acts, lifts, and maybe even bakes sourdough. He's also not as legendary as Clint Eastwood. He's not known for drug scandals. He doesn't have a wild story about a dictator dad or childhood spent living next to a nuclear reactor. In fact, if we're being honest, Keanu Reeves is kind of a boring dude in real life, but when it comes to his career, boring is the last word that comes to mind. Because Keanu's story is full of roller coaster highs, cringe-worthy lows, and some of the most surprising comebacks in Hollywood history. So today, let's go full throttle through the chaos, glory, and glorious weirdness of Keanu's career. Keanu's accidental entry into Hollywood royalty? Credit goes to his stepdad, Paul Aaron, a guy who, back in the late 70s, somehow directed one of Chuck Norris's top-grossing films, A Force of One. Keanu started showing up on the big screen around the mid-1880s, and when we say showing up, we mean in everything. He wasn't picky. 1 year, 5 or 6 films, sometimes he was a sidekick, sometimes a blurry background character. If there was a script and a camera, Keanu was there. Keanu's real breakout came with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. The film was a stoner-friendly time travel comedy with a phone booth and absolutely zero logic. But somehow, it worked. Around the same time, Keanu also scored supporting roles in Dangerous Liaisons and Parenthood, which were box office successes. So what happened? Quantity finally paid off. The industry went, he's everywhere, maybe we should take him seriously. But here's the fun part. The whole Keanu breaks out in 1989 thing, total fluke. Bill and Ted was filmed in 1987 by De Laurentiis Entertainment Group, the same year the studio went bankrupt. The film was tossed onto a dusty shelf like an unopened pizza box, Orion Pictures, which bought the film from a bankruptcy sale for $2 million. It had cost $10 million to make and ended up grossing $41 million. Not bad for a forgotten teen comedy starring a guy named after a Hawaiian breeze. So yeah, the movie that helped launch Keanu's career, it sat in limbo for 2 years before anyone saw it. Despite a strong year in 1989, Keanu didn't suddenly turn into Mr. Oscar bait. Nope. He kept cranking out films like it was a Costco sample table. The one change? He wasn't doing TV anymore. Now, everything went to theaters, for better or often worse. Some were modest flops. Some, like My Own Private Idaho, were indie darlings showered with Film Fest awards. Then came 1991. 5 movies. 1 year. Including the one that turned Keanu from that guy from Bill and Ted into a full-blown leading man. Point Break, the film where Keanu plays an undercover FBI agent who learns to surf. Yes, that's the actual plot. It almost didn't go to it. Matthew Broderick was first in line, but bailed. Years later, he claimed he passed on a totally different version of the script. James Cameron, who came on board as producer, and, surprise, rewrote half the thing with his then-wife, director Catherine Bigelow. Apparently, being married to the director means you're not just a guest producer, you're working overtime. Cameron reportedly shot key action scenes, including the gas station shootout and the epic backyard chase. Classic just a producer behavior. Even after landing the role in Point Break, Keanu had plenty of doubters, including all his friends. They told him, "You're gonna do a movie about surfer bank robbers? Are you trying to kill your career?" One friend probably even added, "You went from Socrates and time travel to robbing banks in wetsuits, but Keanu? He had a vision. Or maybe just really liked waves." Either way, he beat out both Johnny Depp and Val Kilmer for the role. Yes, two guys who also wanted to sabotage their careers with this project. Keanu just beat them to it. Fun fact, Point Break could have been directed by Sir Ridley Blade Runner Scott. But after finishing Black Rain, he was probably like, "What am I doing? I make cyberpunk masterpieces, not movies where people wear wetsuits and jump out of planes." So when Thelma and Louise came along, he bailed faster than a skydiver without a chute. That opened the door for Catherine Bigelow, who brought in her husband James Cameron to help cue 80s power couple energy. Point Break hit theaters 1 week after Terminator 2.
I'll be back.
Great. Let's premiere right after a genre-defining blockbuster with literally the same producer. Not only did it miss first place, it missed second and third too. It got shoved below Boys, In the Hood, and the 101 Dalmatians re-release. Yes, cartoon puppies beat Keanu with a gun. Then, 1 week later, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey dropped and knocked Point Break down even further. For a glorious moment, 2 Keanu Reeves movies were in the top 10 at the same time, and neither of them was number 1. Despite the rough timing, Point Break pulled in $43 million domestically, another $40 million globally. On a $24 million budget, Bill and Ted 2, by comparison, made $38 million on a $20 million budget. So yeah, the surfer action FBI bro thriller did just fine. Enough to spark sequel talks at Fox. But by '93, they read the script for Point Break 2 and went, "This is either way too weird or way too expensive." And that was that. Hot off his "I swear I'm not just Ted" era, Keanu landed a role in Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. The movie made $215 million on a $40 million budget. Critics and audiences mostly loved it. Coppola? Not so much. He later said casting Keanu was a bad idea, and that he only did it to lock in a young rising star. Apparently, Keanu just wasn't right for the role. Next up, Little Buddha in 1993, directed by Bernardo Bertolucci. The film flopped. Hard. Budget, $35 million. Box office, $48 million. And it rained Razzies, though Keanu dodged one somehow. The audience didn't vibe with Zen Keanu. But don't worry, the next movie would change everything. Half of Hollywood said no to Speed. Too weird, too simple, too die hard on a bus. But Keanu? He said yes. And thank goodness. Speed made $350 million worldwide. on a $30 million budget. Boom. Keanu was now a global action star, and every studio suddenly wanted a piece. Mid-90s. Keanu had options, lots of them. Instead of Heat or Cutthroat Island or anything that made sense, he chose Johnny Mnemonic. Yeah, that cyberpunk headache of a film deserves its own chapter. So here's how Johnny Mnemonic came to be. Director Robert Longo and sci-fi author William Gibson had a dream. A small, cerebral, low-budget cyberpunk movie. Something deep, something gritty. They pitched it to half of Hollywood. Nobody wanted to touch it. So naturally, their next move was, let's ask for $25 million instead of $1.5 million. That'll work. Surprisingly, it did. Studios lined up. Suddenly, their tiny brainy script had studio money, marketing, expectations, and eventually, Keanu Reeves, the Batman. That almost was, but thank you, Val Kilmer. Originally, the lead role was going to Val Kilmer. He agreed. Everything was set. Then Warner Brothers waved a shiny cape and said, "Wanna be Batman?" Val said, "Yup," and left Mnemonic faster than Johnny could download 320 gigs into his skull. This is where Keanu enters. And the legend goes, someone literally left the script on his doorstep. Keanu picked it up, read it, and said, "Sure, let's do this thing." Because why not play a man who smuggles data in his brain and hangs out with a psychic dolphin? The shoot was pure chaos. Longo and Gibson were fighting with producers. Creative disagreements flew like ninja stars. Multiple producers quit mid-filming. The studio tried cutting the movie down like a bonsai tree with a chainsaw. By the end, Dolph Lundgren's character was mostly deleted. Gibson, the writer, was horrified. He said the final film had almost nothing left from his original script. So yeah, things were going well. Not the download they were hoping for. Budget, $26 million. Gross, $52 million. Impact, barely noticeable blip on Keanu's radar. The movie tanked hard. Robert Longo's directing career, over. All other planned William Gibson adaptations, buried in the digital graveyard. Keanu? Well, he got another Razzie nomination, his specialty by now. But hey, he rebounded fast. Just 4 months later, Keanu tried to soften things with A Walk in the Clouds, a charming little romance that somehow made $95 million worldwide. On a $20 million budget, critics were like, "This is fine, let's give him a break." And for a hot minute, people remembered Keanu could actually act. But then, chain reaction. Or, as it was called on set, Steven Seagal on carbs. Keanu decided to get injured before filming his next movie. He was playing hockey, wiped out a few times, and messed up his neck. Doctors said, "Do not move. At all." Naturally, a few weeks later, he showed up on set for Chain Reaction, looking like he had just eaten Steven Seagal. He gained 10 plus kilograms, couldn't move much, and you can feel it in every scene. The crew even nicknamed the movie Chain Reaction, with Buns. Budget disaster plus bonus Razzie equals classic Keanu. Budget $50 million. Box office $61 million. Razzie nod. You know it. Nick Offerman? Yes. Ron Swanson had a small role. When the movie premiered, his entire performance had been cut off. Next came Feeling Minnesota, another box office fizzle. Critics weren't feeling it, audiences weren't either. So what did Keanu do next? He joined forces with Al Pacino. The Devil's Advocate. Now this is how you bounce back. Originally, The Devil's Advocate was supposed to be a loud, dumb blockbuster with explosions, demons, literal hellfire. Even Al Pacino passed, until they rewrote the script into something smarter, darker, and actually good. Now here's where Keanu did something wild. To land Pacino, he gave up $3 million of his own salary. He took $5 million instead of $8, so Al could get paid. And the movie? Budget $57 million. Box office $153 million. Cult status achieved. Fresh off The Devil's Advocate, the studio was begging Keanu to return for Speed 2, Cruise Control, but he said no. Some say it was because the script was garbage, accurate. Others claim he wanted to tour with his band, Dogstar, hilarious, but maybe true. Whatever the reason, the studio was furious. He didn't just say no. He said, "Hey, maybe work on the script a bit and push filming back a few months?" The studio replied, "Nah, we'll just recast. You're dead to us." Big mistake. Huge. Let's get one thing straight. Keanu Reeves is only in The Matrix because literally no one else wanted it. Nicolas Cage passed. Will Smith passed. Russell Crowe, Sean Connery, Jean Reno, also nope. Why? Because the directors, the Wachowskis, were weirdos with a confusing script and no real resume. No one could understand what the movie was about. And no one could visualize how bullet time was supposed to look. Not even Will Smith. And he made Wild Wild West instead. So, yeah. Keanu naturally read the script and went, "Cool, let's do this." Warner Brothers gave the project $60 million, which eventually crept up to $65 million after some production delays. And then, magic happened. When The Matrix opened in 1999, it wasn't exactly a box office destroyer. Opening weekend, $27 million. Compare that to The Phantom Menace, $63 million. Tarzan, $34 million. Big Daddy and Austin Powers. 2, also bigger. But The Matrix had something those didn't, insane staying power. It stayed in the top 10 for 13 straight weeks, pulled $171 million domestic, $292 million international. Boom, $463 million total. And then came the Oscars. 4 of them, all technical. The Matrix became a pop culture revolution. And Keanu? Now officially untouchable. Keanu was smart. Instead of just taking a fat paycheck for the sequels, he negotiated a profit percentage. And when Reloaded and Revolutions dropped in 2003, the franchise made over $1.1 billion combined. His take, $100 million plus, maybe even more. And because he's Keanu, he gave $30 to $40 million of that to the visual effects and costume teams, saying, "They're the ones who made this movie great." Who does that? While The Matrix turned him into a sci-fi god, Keanu was still Keanu. He signed on to stuff like The Replacements made $51 million on a $50 million budget. The Watcher, a Razzie nominee that he claimed he was tricked into doing. How do you trick someone into starring in a movie? Ask Keanu. Apparently, he signed the papers as a favor, and later said the producers faked his approval. But rather than fight it, he just showed up. Classic. And then came Constantine. It was originally supposed to star, guess who? Nicolas Cage. We really could have had a multiverse of Cage. The role went to Keanu for $7 million. And despite die-hard comic fans being mad that he wasn't a blonde British occultist named after Sting, the movie made $230 million. Studio logic: this made money. Cancel all sequels immediately. Because Hollywood. Constantine 2 is now in development, only 20 years late. After the Matrix money truck unloaded in his driveway, Keanu did what any self-respecting actor would do. He signed on for every confusing, depressing, or unwatchably weird script Hollywood had lying around. Among them, A Scanner, Darkly, The Lake House, Keanu plus Sandra Bullock plus Magic Mailbox, Street Kings, The Day the Earth Stood Still, remake nobody asked for, Henry's Crime, Generation, yes, that's the real title, Box office hits, nope, Festival darlings, nah, awards, only if you count Razzies. Eventually, Keanu figured, if I can star in flops, maybe I can direct one too. Man of Tai Chi, his directorial debut. A martial arts film with Keanu as the villain, and a plot that felt like Mortal Kombat meets motivational therapy. It barely made a dent in theaters. And afterward, Keanu said, yeah, maybe directing isn't for me. Daughter of God, a movie so bad, it was sent to movie jail. This film had everything. A half-baked script, a studio re-edit without the director's consent, a second title, Exposed, because even they knew. Daughter of God sounded like a cult recruitment DVD. Originally, Keanu was cast in a supporting role, but by the time the poster dropped, there he was, front and center. You'd think he'd learned from the Watcher incident, right? Nope. He allegedly signed the contract without reading it again. Keanu, buddy, come on. By this point, Keanu's movies weren't even going to theaters anymore. Knock Knock, The Whole Truth, The Bad Batch, Siberia, Replicas, the Neon Demon cameo, which admittedly was kinda cool. Critics stopped reviewing. Fans stopped watching. Theaters stopped calling. Keanu was on the verge of becoming the next Bruce Willis straight-to-VOD legend. Or worse, a Mel Gibson comeback case. And then, John Wick happened. Chad Stahelski, a stuntman turned director who happened to be Keanu's double in The Matrix. He had this little revenge thriller script about a retired hitman who goes nuclear after someone kills his puppy. The role was originally written for a grizzled old veteran, think Clint Eastwood in a hoodie. But producer Basil Iwanik said, let's cast someone who's already a living weapon. Boom, Keanu's back. The budget, $20 million. The result? $86 million, glowing reviews, and a full-blown Keanu-sence. Keanu wasn't just a movie star. He was a vibe. Fans shared subway sightings, stories of him giving up his seat, buying ice cream just to sign the receipt for a fan, gifting Rolexes to his stunt team. He became the wholesome legend of the internet. And just like that, he went from meme to movement. Aside from dropping 3 more Wick films and turning the franchise into an art house bloodbath ballet, Keanu became the face of Cyberpunk 2077, wrote a comic, Berserk AR, soon to be a Netflix movie, starred in The Matrix Resurrections, which, let's not, and is returning in Constantine 2 only 20 years late. The 2014 Resurrection Tour didn't stop there. In 2021, The Matrix returned from the digital graveyard with Matrix Resurrections, or as fans now lovingly call it, Matrix Regret-rections. Yes, Neo came back. Kind of. Along with Trinity. Sort of. And Morpheus? He got digitally replaced by someone from a different multiverse. The film, wrapped in meta-commentary and nostalgia bait, tried to convince us it was self-aware. Being self-aware doesn't make it good. With a budget north of $190 million, the movie earned less than the first Matrix did back in 1999. And that's without inflation. The box office numbers were so underwhelming. Some execs probably had déjà vu about greenlighting it. Still, Keanu looked great in slow-mo and reminded us he can still dodge bullets, even if this time they were more like bad reviews. Let's face it, Keanu's had more flops than fast food wrappers in your car, more Razzie nominations than most careers, and more weird career choices than Nicolas Cage. Almost. But through it all, he stayed. Grateful. Humble. Ridiculously Keanu. Whether he's dodging bullets, handing out snacks, or just minding his business on the subway, he's the real deal. And that's why, in a town built on hype, image, and egos, Keanu Reeves outlasted everyone.